morning. Happy New Year to all my viewers. Happy New Year. Hope you had a wonderful Christmas and happy. And I wish you a prosperous 2022. Um, Welcome to the third episode of Speaking Out, Exposing Corruption and Incompetence. This program, as you will recall, started in December last year. And I promise to continue and to make sure that I continue to speak out and to expose corruption and incompetence. I want to tell you that for this year, one of my resolutions is to ensure that this program improves and that the information, the facts are brought to you so that you can make informed judgment. You recall this all started out, as I indicated at the beginning, that following some incidents, I recognize and I realize how incompetent, how corrupt, how vindictive some senior police officers are. And I think it is important for me to point out these things to you, the members of the public. And I continue to say that I know that the powers that be have their wish, have their aims, have their desires, and I don't really expect that what I'm going to say or what I'm saying will move them. However, I think it is important for you, the members of the public, including members of the force, to know who these people are, what they have done, what they are doing, so that when you see them, you know how to protect yourself, you know how to interact with them. So welcome to this third episode of this program. I know that people have been reaching out to me, people have been asking when is the next program. So the interest is there, and I hope that the interest will continue to grow. I did indicate on the last occasion that the aim is to ensure that this program is aired at 11 o'clock. That's 11 o'clock, 11 a.m. Guyana time. Now with the time change in the US, that's going to be 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, the same time in Jamaica. So I will aim to ensure that every Wednesday, this program is aired. And you will note that once the live recording or once the live program is finished, the program will be on Facebook, on the same page, Speaking Out, Exposing Corruption and Incompetence. And it will also be on YouTube. So if you don't get the opportunity to view it live, because of whatever commitments you may have, you can always check it out on the page, check it out on YouTube. I noted that the first two episodes have had quite a large viewership. I thank you for that. I also want to encourage those of you who are viewing it live to share the stream so that others can be enlightened, others can be made aware of what has been going on, what I'm saying, and the program can grow. Now, last week, I told you about Senior Superintendent Calvin Brutus, the man who is in charge of admin. I remind you that even though he holds himself out as a deputy commissioner, he's not. He's a senior superintendent of police. And that's all part of the corruption that these people can be referring to him, including people like the Minister of Home Affairs and other senior government functionaries, can be referring to him as deputy commissioner, knowing full well that he is not. That is dishonesty. They know he's not, and they refer to him as that. So he feels emboldened, and he refers to himself as a deputy commissioner. He's not. I told you about several incidents. I told you about allegations when he was the commander on the East Coast that he misappropriated funds. I told you about allegations that he's involved in a corrupt, what is alleged to be corrupt process where he approves large sums or large cash advances for people, including his secretary and his driver, to go to remote locations in Guyana to conduct investigations. We know that, I know, and many of the ranks in the force would know, that no way a driver or a secretary to the man in charge of administration is going to Port Kaituma, to go into K2 and those remote interior locations to conduct any investigation. And when you look at the dates too, one of the advances was approved on the 24th of December, Christmas Eve Day 2020, and the other two that I'm aware of were approved in the same month of December. I think it was the 8th and the 17th of December. That in itself tells you that something is amiss. The allegation is that similar things have been done in previous divisions, Bobby's in particular, when he was there. I also told you about the unprofessional conduct with the Pastor Dulachan. I told you what he did with the deceased Senior Superintendent Charmin Stewart. And these are all things that are there for people to see. And I continue to say that that gentleman, well, I'm using the term very loosely there, that Mr. Calvin Brutus is not competent enough. The Chief Justice found him to be self-serving. That in itself is a serious indictment. And that alone should have caused him to be removed. But I know the commissioner cannot remove him because the commissioner did not put him there. He was put there by the politicians, I think, at the behest of Assistant Commissioner Ikin. So I guess the person who's carrying out the functions of the commissioner, Mr. Happy, has to await instructions for him to be removed from that position. Now, one of the things I omitted to mention last week, and I'll tell you about it now, and this speaks to incompetence, this speaks to perhaps vindictiveness by the same Senior Superintendent, Calvin Brutus. During 2017, I think it was, he was the commander of C Division, East Coast. They call it Regional Division, I think it's now 4C, Regional Division 4C, which is headquartered at Covan John and the East Coast. He was the commander there during this time. And there was an incident at the Sophia police station where a sergeant who was in charge there was reported for being, for neglecting his duty. Some report was made, a lady made a report, and I think the allegation was that the report was not properly handled. Now, the report was made at the Office of Professional Responsibility, OPR, and they conducted an investigation. Following the investigation, they sought legal advice, and it was said that the sergeant should be charged for neglect of duty. So the matter was investigated under the Police Discipline Act, 1701. A charge of neglect of duty was instituted against the sergeant who was at the time in charge of Sophia Police Station. Now, for those of you who don't know, let me just quickly tell you the process for disciplinary charges. He was served with a notice of that an investigation was being done, following which he was served with a charge sheet, and at some stage an inquiry was held. He pleaded not guilty to the charge. When the inquiry commenced, the evidence was led by the rank at OPR who conducted the investigation. Evidence was led by the inspector who served the charge sheet. And this is what we call formal evidence, formal evidence. The virtual complainant, that is the person who made the report against the sergeant, failed to show at the inquiry, failed to turn up at the inquiry, despite being summoned, and I think on at least 2 occasions, the virtual complainant refused to give evidence, saying that she had lost interest in the matter. She did not wish for the matter to proceed any further. So at the inquiry, quite rightly, the sergeant made a no case submission, saying that based on the evidence that was presented, there was no case for him to answer, which is quite correct. The inquiring officer, I think a young assistant superintendent, agreed that there was no case made out against the sergeant, and therefore he recommended for the matter to be dismissed. So let me tell you how the process works. The officer who's conducted the inquiry, he can only conduct the inquiry, and he puts up his findings to the commander, who is the disciplinary authority. Under the Constitution and under the Police Discipline Act, Chapter 1701, you have the disciplinary authority, who is the commander. He is the person who has to award punishment. So once the officer finished the inquiry, he put up his findings to the commander, indicating all that I explained to you, that the witness, the virtual complainant did not turn up, and therefore we call him the defaulter. The sergeant made a no-case submission, which he upheld, which he agreed to, and that he's recommending that the matter be dismissed against the sergeant. Lo and behold, you would not believe it, but the records, I always say the records are there. So when the matter went to the commander, in the face of all that I have explained, the commander found the sergeant guilty and fined him 1 day's pay when there's absolutely no evidence. So I am saying that that is incompetence, and perhaps even worse is vindictiveness, because subsequent to that, the very sergeant was somewhere in Borbies. Brutus was again the commander there in Borbies at this time. And of all the sergeants and all the ranks in Borbies, this sergeant was singled out for disciplinary action in that he failed to take appropriate action to curb the use of squib, firecrackers on the quarantine. Can you imagine that? You know that during certain holiday periods, Christmas, Diwali, New Year's, the firecrackers, the use of firecrackers is very prevalent. It's illegal. Action should be taken. I agree. But how can you single out one man in the entire division, perhaps in the entire country, to say that he should be disciplined for failing to ensure that proper action was taken by the police to ease the use of firecrackers? And how did I get to know of this? At the Police Service Commission, as I indicated some time ago, when recommendations are made for promotion, we were very, very thorough to ensure that the persons who were recommended qualified to be promoted, and that the persons who were not recommended, well, it was justly done. There was a proper process, proper objective process that was gone through. And the matter that I just referred to came to our attention because this sergeant was not recommended for promotion. And the reason why he was not recommended for promotion to the rank of inspector is because the administration of the force said that he had a recent disciplinary conviction. Now, once a person has a disciplinary conviction, the regulation is, the standing order is that that person has to wait for at least 2 years to pass before he can be considered for promotion. So having seen this explanation that this person has had a recent disciplinary conviction, because of our thoroughness, we decided, let's see what the disciplinary conviction is. So we got the file, and in going through the file of this sergeant, we were astonished at the commission to see that this man was convicted and fined 1 day's pay, and his future is being affected when there was no case against him. So that is how incompetent and perhaps even vindictive Senior Superintendent Calvin Brutus is. I referred last week to his corrupt involvement in the police association election. The election at the time, that was last year. The association life was still in force. It should have ended in March of 2022. That's March of this year. But Brutus decided that he was going to get rid of the police association. And the reason was clear. The reason that he wanted to get rid of the police association is because the police association has a very important role, as you would have seen, you would have read recently, where they are required to nominate persons to sit on the Police Service Commission. So his aim was to get rid of the police association at the time so that he can install his people who will take instructions and take directions from the politicians. And we have seen that is exactly what has happened. During that illegal election held by Brutus, Inspector Prem was installed, I should say, as the chairman of the police association. And recently, you would have read that the Police Association nominated 4 persons to sit on the Police Service Commission. I wasn't surprised that they nominated 4 persons. And if you look at the 4 persons, they say 2 are 2 businessmen. One, I think, is a lawyer, and one is a bishop or something. Look, I asked the question then, and I'm asking it again. What process did the Police Association employ to identify these persons as being suitable to sit on the Police Service Commission? What process? How did they know these people? And I'm saying this, no proper process would have been gone through. They would have been given those names. Those names would have been given to Prem Narayan, and I doubt whether they would have had any discussion at the Police Association level, and those names were submitted to the to Parliament to be considered to sit to be members, for the President to appoint them as members at the Police Service Commission. That is the thing. Prem Narayan, that is what he did. That is what he was installed as the chairman of the Police Association to do. That is what he was put there. And you need to know something about Prem Narayan. Now, Prem Narayan, he was one of the persons who joined Brutus to challenge the promotion at the end of Ole's Day in 2020. He was one of the persons who joined Brutus. Now, he has a very colorful history in the force. First of all, when I got to know about this character, he was one of the persons during the commission that was there before my commission, the commission I chaired, and he was promoted from corporal to inspector. And lots of questions were asked. How can this person just jump the hundreds of sergeants who are in the force? He doesn't have any special qualification. He doesn't have any special skill. But we got to know later on, he has affiliation to the politicians. So he was promoted from corporal straight to the rank of inspector, jumping the rank of sergeant. The question was asked, people asked the question, I don't know, but perhaps he did not even pass the appropriate qualifying examination. But at that time, that didn't matter. The politicians and people would have intervened, and the commission would have been told to promote him to inspector, and he was promoted to inspector. That's Prem Narayan. Now, apart from that, he has had some disciplinary breaches, matters reported against him. One is still pending, and the one that is pending, it is still pending, says that he was absent from duty in around the election period there in 2020. And when the investigation was done, it was discovered that Prem Narayan, who was at the time stationed at West Demerara, Region Division 3, left the division, and this is during the time of the election when they say the force is on standby, the force is in line. He left to go to court, which is fine. You have to go to court, No alignment can prevent you from going to court. You have to go to court somewhere out of the division. So he left and he went out of the division. The next thing the division knew of Prem Narayan, and this was reported, Prem Narayan, Inspector of Police, is at the GCOM office in Hatfield Street with politicians, including the then opposition leader, who is now vice president, and other prominent politicians from the People's Progressive Party. In that old millie there, when they said that they were breaking into the chairman of GCOM's office, Prem Narayan is prominent in that whole arrangement. Can you imagine that? Inspector of Police, Detective Inspector of Police, who should have been on duty in West Demerara at the time, given that he left to go to court, court would have been finished by the time he was there, found himself at GCOM's office, involved in a protest, a political protest, where they tried to break into the office of the chairman of GCOM, of GCOM. That is the type of person you have. The man is politically aligned and politically affiliated, and shows it. I mean, many people have their political affiliation. Nothing is wrong with that. But as a professional policeman, as a professional police officer, you are expected to act in a more appropriate and professional manner. And no one can tell any one of us, I'm sure, that finding yourself at GCOM office in the company of politicians trying to break into the chairman's office is appropriate police conduct. It's not good conduct for anyone, more so police. So so that's the person. And then in 2019, you should recall, as I said, he has a very colorful history. In 2019, there was a matter which was widely reported. He was at the Georgetown Magistrate Court giving evidence in a fraud case. And while he was in the witness box giving evidence, he made a request to refresh his memory from the statement that he would have written. I think the magistrate allowed that on the first occasion. But then he made similar requests, and the magistrate refused to allow him to continue to refresh his memory from the statement. Now, let me say this. Let me say this quite clearly. We were taught that when you have to give evidence in any matter, you would have written a statement in relation to what you knew of the matter. Before the matter is called in court, you go to court. If you're a junior rank, you go to the court superintendent's office, where or you go to the relevant office in the outlying areas, where you will get an opportunity to read through your statement and refresh your memory as to what transpires. In the case of an inspector and officer, perhaps they would not go to the court superintendent's office. They will go to the court in sufficient time, so they go to the prosecutor, get an opportunity to refresh your memory from the statement that you would have written some time ago. Because remember, sometimes the statement would have written a long time. You're not going to remember perhaps all the dates and all the facts. So you go to court early enough to refresh your memory. But this is an inspector of police, a detective inspector, who is in the witness box. He is in the witness box and asking to refresh himself from the statement. And the magistrate apparently got fed up, and the magistrate said, no, she's not going to allow. The man proceeded, the magistrate ordered him out of the witness box to take a seat. He proceeded to be abusive, use abusive and insulting language. Imagine that. A police inspector in the magistrate's court, magistrate told him to have his seat because she was, I think, disgusted with him trying to refresh his memory from the statement. He's abusive in words to the magistrate. The magistrate then instruct the police who were there for him to arrest him because of his conduct. He then confronted the police, telling them that they can't arrest him because of his rank and all of that. But let me say this, and this is something that people run away with. So there's nothing wrong with a junior rank arresting someone who is senior. Let's make it clear. There's a lot of confusion, and I want to clarify this. Now, if it's a disciplinary matter, if the person is alleged to have committed a disciplinary breach, then the Police Discipline Act, Chapter 1701, Section 5.3 of that Act, says that disciplinary breaches can only be investigated by a person who holds the rank of sergeant and above. You must be at least the rank of sergeant. And in any event, the person who is investigating must be of a higher rank than the person who is alleged to have committed an offense. So that is the Police Discipline Act. But when it comes to any other law, let's say the criminal law, there's nothing saying that a junior rank, so if an officer commits himself, let's say an officer wounds someone, officers assault someone, there is absolutely nothing wrong with a junior rank. Even a constable, the last giant constable, can arrest him. And follow the logics. Because if you're saying that someone must be of senior rank to arrest a policeman for a criminal offense, it means that the commissioner of police is above the law. Simple explanation, because there's no one who is senior to the commissioner. So you're saying if the commissioner, if you're to follow that foolish logic, you're saying that if the commissioner is to commit himself, then no one can investigate, no one can arrest, which is not so. So the point here is that any rank can arrest a policeman if he commits a criminal offense. So let's put this. So his position in the court is that the ranks were junior to him and they could not arrest him and all of that. I understand based on the research that, he was eventually arrested. The magistrate then decided to hold him in contempt and sentence him to 1 week in prison. At which stage, I think some lawyers appealed to the Chief Justice. The Chief Justice intervened, and the Chief Justice decided that the 1 week was excessive, and that whatever happened, whatever detention he had at that time, she felt that was sufficient. But here is one, again, gross and rank indiscipline, and this is one of the persons who's been put forward. This is one of the persons who challenged the Police Service Commission in court. Of course, they lost, but these are the type of people who expect to be promoted, because in the past, as we said, that is what would have happened. Some politician would have given instructions to the Police Service Commission for him to be promoted and he would have been promoted. As I said, he was promoted from corporal to inspector. I am 100% sure that the police administration at the time did not recommend him to be promoted from corporal to inspector. That is never done at that level. That is never done. If they felt that he was a good worker, they would have promoted him to sergeant, because remember, the Police Service Commission promotes from inspector to assistant commissioner, and the commissioner of police is the one who promotes from lance corporal to sergeant. So if the administration of the force at the time felt that he was a good worker and he was competent to perform at the next level, they would have promoted him to the rank of sergeant. But the fact that he was promoted from corporal, bypassing the rank of sergeant, and therefore bypassing hundreds perhaps of sergeants, and to be promoted to inspector, that would have been straight from the politicians and his political affiliation. And then more recently, again, I'd say this is a colorful character. Again, more recently, I read not so long ago that there was a fatal shooting on the East Bank, and he's been investigated for that shooting. Somewhere in Diamond on the East Bank, some person who the police claim had committed some crime. The police claims that there was a confrontation, and the persons shoot at the police, and President Ryan returned fire, fatally injuring this person. I can't remember the person's name. Fatally injuring this person. And, well, of course, no firearm was found. There was no evidence that there was any firearm on the deceased person. So that matter, I suspect, is being investigated, because you haven't heard anything about it in a while. These matters, these fatal shootings tend to just disappear. They die a natural death after months, and we don't know. It's a worrying trend. I am not saying that. Let me understand this thing clearly. I've said it repeatedly. I know from my experience as a police, there are going to be cases. There are going to be many cases, perhaps, where resorting to lethal fire is justified, because if a person attacks a policeman, if a person shoots at a policeman, the policeman has every right to defend himself. If a person attacks another person, and a police calls on him to desist from doing so, and that's the standing order. The police has a right to engage and to use lethal force to bring an end to that situation. So I'm not saying that that shooting in itself is wrong. I'm saying there are rules of engagement which should be scrupulously followed. So that is a person, and I spoke a while ago about promotion. This is one of the questions being asked at this time. You know, traditionally, at the end of the year, police will have promotion. Well, in terms of the senior promotion, that wasn't had since 2019, because when the 2020 promotions were to be made, just at the point when the discussions and the list was being finalized, Senior Superintendent Calvin Brutus went to court to challenge the process. He was joined by Superintendent Chief Bacchus, Assistant Superintendent Jupiter, Stanley, Deputy Superintendent Stanley, it's the same Prem Narayan. I think there might have been one or two others, but I remember those persons joining Brutus to put an halt to the promotion. So the senior promotion, and senior meaning from the rank of inspector to assistant commissioner. We have not had any in a long while, since 2019. And when the promotions were finally made in last year, if you recall, on June the 28th, the Service Commission then made the promotion following the ruling of the Chief Justice, but the government, through the Attorney General, said that they are not recognizing it, and those promotions have not been put into effect. That matter is before the court, and therefore I'm not going to go into it any further. Just to say that we anxiously await, because the judge, Justice Gino Prasad, indicated the last time this matter came up that he is going to call the parties sometime in January this month, and to make a ruling. He's going to make a ruling. He's expected to make a ruling on whether the application by the Attorney General, which is to have the matter struck out, because his argument is that there's no longer a police service commission, and therefore the question as to whether the president acted unconstitutionally in suspending the police service commission should not be inquired into. That question should not be answered. I can't imagine that. The allegation is that the president acted unconstitutionally when he purported to suspend the Police Service Commission on June 16, 2021. And again, let me remind you that this commission, the commission that I chaired, is suspended on the 16th of June, 2021, when the life of the commission would have automatically ended on the 9th of August, 2021. Commissioner just made 2 months more. So the question is, why would the president suspend a commission in June when the life of the commission ends in August? And the answer to that is that the president and his advisors and Brutus et al., they knew that when the decision which was to be made by the Chief Justice on the 18th of June was handed down, that it would have been in favor of the Police Service Commission. So they did not want a service commission in place when the decision was made to strike out the challenge brought by Brutus, Prem Narayan, and others. They did not want a police service commission in place. So notwithstanding the fact that the commission had less than 2 months to serve, they proceeded to unlawfully and unconstitutionally suspend the commission on the 16th of June. So the argument that the Attorney General is making is that the fact, because that the commission life came to an end on the 9th of August, the action taken by the president on the 16th of June should not be questioned because there is no commission to deal with that. So the judge is to rule as to whether the substantive matter should be proceeded with, and that ruling, as I've indicated earlier, is expected sometime this month, based on what the judge said. Justice Gino Prasad said on the last occasion that when he's ready, he's going to call the parties together sometime in January 2022 to hand down the decision. So again, we anxiously await that. So there's no Police Service Commission now, which means that the promotion in the Guyana Police Force from the rank of Inspector to Assistant Commissioner cannot be made, cannot constitutionally be made. Let me be careful in saying that, because it has to be made. The Constitution is clear. The body to make those promotions is the Police Service Commission. So quite logically, there's no Police Service Commission, so those promotions cannot be made. As we have said earlier, efforts have been made to reconstitute the Police Service Commission, in that the 4 persons have been identified. And I think based on the Constitution, the next step is for one of those 4 persons to be named as the chairman of the Police Service Commission. But that requires consultation between the president and the opposition leader. That is what the Constitution says. I said earlier, in the suspension of the Police Service Commission, the Constitution was not followed. So let's wait and see if the Constitution will be followed in the reestablishment of a new, or in the establishment of a new Police Service Commission. And then the other ranks, that is from Lance Corporal to, well, basically it should be Lance Corporal to Station Sergeant, but for years now, no one has been promoted to the rank of Station Sergeant, so it's from Lance Corporal to Sergeant. That is made by the Commissioner of Police. That is made by the Commissioner of Police. Let me emphasize that. But we know that sometime during last year, I think it was, the commissioner, the person who's carrying out the functions of commissioner, Mr. Nigel Appy, and who's the person who's responsible for those promotions, he was out of the jurisdiction briefly. And Assistant Commissioner Ikin unlawfully, without any authority, promoted some ranks in the force. When Appy returned from his brief stay out of Guyana, he quite correctly, in my view, reversed the promotions made by Ikin. The politicians got involved, the Minister of Home Affairs and perhaps other politicians got involved, and instructed Appy to give effect to the promotions that were made by Ikin. So that is the type of incompetence, is a corrupt process. So now people were looking out. I would have seen at least one article in the on the social media where persons saying that they were looking out for promotion on Olia's Day, which is a tradition. So even if the senior promotions are not made, the junior promotions, for example, in 2020, when the senior promotions were challenged, they went ahead with the junior promotions from Lance Corporal to Sergeant. So people perhaps were looking out anxiously, because when you work all year and you're a diligent worker, you look forward to promotion, because promotion means a little bit more money, it means a little more prestige, and it's an advancement in your career, and people want to advance their career. So no promotions were held at the end of 2021. Guyana is a place of rumors. Rumors abound. I don't want to spread rumors, just to say that promotions have not been made, and I think we are all looking forward anxiously. GDF promoted, I think, 1,000 and something persons, and there's no promotion in the police force for 2021. So people are asking questions. Why were promotions not made at that time? So I guess the questions are going to be answered in due time. Now, the other question that people are asking, people ask me lots of questions before this live stream, and since the live stream, people reach out to me and ask lots of questions. And one of the questions that is being asked has to do with the Commissioner of Police. Now, we know that the last substantive commissioner, Mr. Leslie James, went into retirement sometime, I think it was April or May last year. So he's off since then, since 2021. He proceeded on pre-retirement leave in August, at the end of July 2020. And he proceeded into retirement in April, May 2021. And at that time, at the time when he proceeded on his pre-retirement leave, the next senior man in the force, Nigel Appy, was asked to carry out the functions of the Commissioner of Police. That is still the position. He's carrying out the functions of the Commissioner of Police. Nigel Appy is due to retire on the 1st of January 2023. He recently celebrated his 54th birthday, and the public service rules is that the mandatory retirement age is 55. So he's going to be 55 in December of this year, 2022. And if you factor in whatever leave he might have, I don't know how many days he has. So he's expected to proceed on leave prior to retirement sometime this year, 2022. I suspect that he's anxiously looking forward to that date, given all that has been taking place, all the undermining, all the backstabbing. I suspect he's anxiously looking forward to that date to proceed on his retirement leave and then into retirement. Now, in the Guyana Police Force, the next senior person after Oppie is Deputy Commissioner Paul Williams. Let me understand this clearly. Deputy Commissioner Paul Williams is the next senior person in the Guyana Police Force. Since August of 2020, a concerted effort has been made to sully the name of Deputy Commissioner Williams. It started out, and I know the whole story, and it's going to be told. I'm here part of it now. It started out with Assistant Commissioner Ikin and Senior Superintendent Karim Bash when they were at the police, Felix Austin Police College, which is the training department. Ikin was in charge. Karim Bash was his deputy. They made allegations against Williams. And those allegations, I understand, were investigated and found to be false. The allegation that monies were paid for people to do lectures, when in fact no lecture was done, was debunked. Because the people who did the lectures were able to confirm that they did lectures. The persons who attended the programs were able to confirm that they were programs which they attended. So that was debunked. But as I said, when on the 16th of September 2020, when the president and I met, he raised Williams to say Williams is being investigated, and he said it in a manner to suggest that Williams was not favored, and they were doing everything to move Williams. Shortly thereafter, they sent Williams off on leave. I think a long 200 or something days leave. They sent him on, move him out of the system, brought Brutus to be there. When he finished leave and he resumed, they sent him to the COVID monitoring unit. So it is clear that they're doing everything to get him out of the way. They are doing everything to get Williams out of the way. Williams, if you check the record, is qualified. He has been performing well. He is qualified, but for some reason, for the reason, I think because of what Ikin and Karim Bash claim, they are sidelining Williams. But I say that again, that after Oppie, the next senior person in the force is Williams, Deputy Commissioner Williams. After Williams, the next senior person is Assistant Commissioner Ikin. Now, I've said a lot, and I will continue to say because I want it to be known. Because Ikin boasted in the run-up to the 2020 election, Ikin walked around police headquarters and boasted that when the government changed, he was confident that government would have changed. He used to mention the date on March 3rd. I remember the elections were held on March the 2nd. And he was confident that on March 3rd, when the government changed, he would be appointed the Commissioner of Police, because he said that the opposition leader at the time, who is now the Vice President, promised him that. And he had already, the thing is there. He had already indicated who was going to go where. He's going to send James was to go home, and this person was to go into this area. And he was going to move all of these people around. So he was promised. So he's there. But I said then, and I say now again, Mr. Clifton Ikin, Assistant Commissioner of Police, is not even qualified to hold the position he now holds, much less to be Commissioner of Police. He's not qualified academically. He's not qualified otherwise. This is a man who I will talk about at some later stage, who has all type of allegations made against him, all type of allegations. Now you're gonna put somebody at this juncture as Commissioner of Police with all of those things dangling. There's not skeletons in the closet, a whole graveyard, and you're gonna put as commissioner. More than that, Clifton Ikin, this year I think born something around June, July. So this year he's gonna be 54 years. So he's to retire next year. He's to retire in 2023. Now you want to tell me that you're thinking about reform and development in the police force, and all the things that have been bandied around about going to university, about integrity. You want to tell me, in all seriousness, that a man who is, even if, let's assume that the man is qualified, let's assume that the man is academically and otherwise qualified, which I say that Ikin is not. But let's assume, for argument's sake, that you have a post who is qualified. The retirement age, the mandatory retirement age in the public service, of which the Ghana Police Force is a part, is 55 years old. It's 55 years. Once you get to 55 years, as I did, you will retire from the force. Don't go into the argument now as to whether it's too young. There's an argument, there's a discussion for there's a whole new discussion. But as it is now, it's 55 years. Ikin will be 54 years sometime this year. So you want to tell me that if Api goes off this year into retirement or leave prior to retirement, that you're going to appoint a man who has just about 1 year or less than a year, who is not qualified to be the commissioner of police? You got to be joking. You have got to be joking. You can never be serious about the development of the force if such a move. And I know, because they might want to say, well, forces have been extended beyond 55. I think when in 1992, when the PPP came into power then, Larry Lewis was the commissioner, and he was due to retire a few years down the road, and he was extended, I think in the first instance by 3 years, and then in the second instance for another 2 years. But when he reached 60 and they were contemplating extending him further, Member of Parliament Debbie Baker challenged it, because she did her research and discovered that you cannot be extended, the commissioner cannot be extended beyond 60. And therefore, in 2001, I think he bowed out. And then Mr. McDonald, who by that time had also passed the mandatory retirement age of 55, was made the commissioner of police, because the man who was competent and the man who was there in line did not find favor. Just as how you find Williams does not find favor. The man then was Mr. Winston Felix, did not find favor. So eventually he was appointed, and he came off at 55. And then you had Henry Green, appointed commissioner. When his time came at 55, the PPP government extended him, and until allegations of rape were leveled against him, investigated, and then he was asked to, he was relieved. And then Bromell, who was the man there, was appointed. And then Bromell too, I think, went beyond 55. And then Silal Prasad, Leslie James, and so on. I'm saying that, so they might very well be contemplating to tell you, well, even though he's going to be 55 in a year, we can extend. But I say further, the culture of the Ghana Police Force is not kind to persons who have been extended. Not kind. And the unfortunate thing is that people who have been extended have not ended well. Many people, those commissioners I'm referring to who have been extended, have not ended well. So let's wait and see how that will play out. But again, I say that the person who seems to be the favorite of the government, Assistant Commissioner Clifton Ikin, I say is not qualified to be the Commissioner of Police, and I don't think you'll be doing the country and the population as a whole any justice if government were to decide to appoint him as Commissioner of Police. And he's being frank and straightforward. Being straightforward. People will say, well, maybe slow as an axe to grind and slow at targeting these people. But I'm telling you facts. These are the facts. And as I said before, the name of the program is Speaking Out, Exposing Corruption and Incompetence. I have given you many instances of corruption, instances of incompetence. And if you really want the force to develop and to move forward, you have to start appointing competent people into senior positions right now. The morale of the force is so low that you need people who can motivate these ranks to perform. And don't, people like to point finger, oh, the police service commission. The service commission that I chaired did a lot to try to restore morale of the ranks of the force. And there's nothing in recent times that has been more demoralizing to the members of the force than the action by the government, the statement made by the Attorney General on the 29th of June, I think it was 2021, when he went on NCN to say that the government was not recognizing the promotions made by the police service commission. So you have a case where 132 persons were promoted legally, lawfully, and the government decided that they are not going to abide by that. They are not going to recognize the promotion. And of course, from the time they said that, the commissioner and the other agencies, the Secretary of the Police Service Commission, they did not do what is legally required of them to give effect to the promotion. So that has had a devastating effect or devastating impact on the morale of the members of the force. And then you have, today is the 5th day in the new year, when traditionally on the 31st of December or the first day in the new year, you would have had promotions at the junior level, and none has been forthcoming. So therefore, I can imagine the morale is even going to go even lower as we speak. So, folks, those are some of the things that I want to bring to your attention today. As I close, I want to say to you that I was alarmed yesterday, I think, or the day before, when I saw the COVID figures from Guyana, almost 500 cases in one day, which is a record. I want to take this opportunity to urge all of you to do everything that is possible to stay safe and to follow the COVID protocols. COVID is real. Don't people fool you. You remember back in 2020, just around the election time, people tried to politicize COVID in Guyana by saying, oh, there's not COVID. The politicians were using that to get a certain influence. They were saying that. I guess by now the whole thing has changed. Because we all know, any reasonable person would tell you that COVID is real. I doubt now whether you have had anyone in Guyana who has not had someone, either in the family or someone they know, either contract the disease or might have passed because of the disease. And therefore, you have to do everything that is possible to protect yourself. Follow the guidelines. Stay home if you have to. Wash your hands, wear your mask, avoid gathering. I am very worried that in the next week or two, given all the social activities during the Christmas period, given the fact that we have this new variant, which they say is far more transmissible than the previous one, I'm worried that the numbers are likely to be very staggering. I hope that I'm wrong. But given how things are going, there is some concern that the figures are going to continue to rise. So I close by, again, wishing you all the best for 2002, all that you wish yourself, and to invite you to join me again next Wednesday when we continue speaking out on exposing corruption and incompetence. Have a good day. God bless you all.